The familiar scent of my aunt's signature pot roast filled the dining room of the Morrison family estate. Every month, like clockwork, the entire extended family gathered here for dinner, a tradition that felt more like torture than togetherness. I adjusted my simple black dress, feeling distinctly out of place among the designer labels and flashy jewelry that adorned my relatives. "Sophie, you actually came." My cousin Elizabeth's voice dripped with fake enthusiasm as she air-kissed my cheeks. Her Cartier bracelet clinked against her wine glass, a not-so-subtle reminder of her success. I forced a polite smile. "Wouldn't miss it, Liz." The Morrison family dinners had become a monthly showcase of achievements, promotions and acquisitions. A parade of success where everyone competed to prove they were living up to the family name. Everyone except me, apparently. "Still working at that little financial firm?" Uncle James called out from across the room, not bothering to look up from his phone. He was the patriarch now after my grandfather passed away 5 years ago. The family real estate empire, Morrison Properties, had tripled under his leadership, a fact he never failed to mention. "Actually, I started my own consulting company," I said, taking a seat at the massive oak dining table. Elizabeth laughed, the sound sharp and dismissive. "Oh right, your private practice. How's that going? Making ends meet?" Before I could respond, my cousin Michael chimed in. "Hey, at least she's trying. Not everyone can be as successful as the rest of us." The rest of the family chuckled. I took a long sip of water, letting the condensation from the glass cool my burning cheeks. They only knew. 8 years ago, I'd walked away from a prestigious position at Morrison Properties. Uncle James had offered me a safe career path, start in middle management, follow orders, and maybe in 20 years, I'd have a shot at a director position. The same path my cousins had happily accepted. "You're making a huge mistake," Uncle James had warned when I resigned. "Nobody leaves Morrison Properties. This family built an empire by sticking together." But I'd seen how they built that empire. Aggressive acquisitions, predatory lending practices, forcing small businesses out of their properties. The Morrison way of doing business left a trail of destroyed lives behind its impressive profit margins. So I left. Started from scratch. Spent years building something different. "Sophie's just different," my mother explained apologetically to anyone who asked. She'd never forgiven me for walking away from the family business. In her eyes, I'd chosen failure over loyalty. Aunt Patricia emerged from the kitchen, carrying her famous pot roast. "Everyone take your seats. Dinner's ready." I found myself wedged between Elizabeth and her husband Brad, a corporate lawyer who loved talking about his latest luxury car purchases. Across from me, Michael and his wife Diana showcased matching Rolex watches, wedding gifts from Uncle James. "So," Elizabeth turned to me as the food was served, "tell us about this consulting business of yours. Any big clients we might know?" The table went quiet, all eyes turning to me. This was their favorite part of family dinner, the moment they could remind me of my supposed failures. "I do all right," I said simply, cutting into my pot roast. "Still a nobody after 8 years?" Michael laughed. "Meanwhile, I just closed the Henderson deal. 40 million in pure profit." "The Henderson property?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "The historic apartment complex downtown?" "Not anymore," Michael grinned. "We're demolishing it next month. Luxury condos are the future. Those old tenants were paying way below market value anyway. 300 families live there," I said quietly. Uncle James waved his hand dismissively. "Business is business, Sophie. This is why you'll never succeed. You're too soft. Too concerned about strangers instead of family." "Speaking of family," Elizabeth interjected, "did you hear about our latest acquisition? That new development in the Bay Area? Daddy's planning to double the rent as soon as the papers are signed." My phone buzzed quietly in my lap. A text from Sarah, my assistant. "Urgent. Morrison Properties loan application ready for review. Their primary lender backed out. They need approval by tomorrow or the Bay Area deal falls through." I suppressed a smile, remembering the meetings I'd had last week with their former lender. Amazing how quickly things could change when certain facts came to light. "Still driving that old Honda, Sophie?" Brad asked, smirking. "You know, I just got the new Mercedes AMG. I could talk to my dealer if you need financing help." More laughter around the table. Even my mother joined in, though she had the decency to look slightly embarrassed. Actually, I started, but Elizabeth cut me off. Oh darling, don't be embarrassed. We can't all be successful. Someone has to be the cautionary tale, right? My phone buzzed again. This time it was a call. The table fell silent as my ringtone cut through their laughter. Sorry, I should take this, I said, standing up. It's about a loan approval. Elizabeth rolled her eyes. What, for your Honda payments? I answered the phone, putting it on speaker. Yes, Sarah. Ms. Blackwood, sorry to interrupt your dinner, but we need your decision on the Morrison Properties loan application. It's for the Bay Area acquisition, $50 million total. Their financial statements show some concerning patterns, and given their history of predatory practices. The color drained from Uncle James's face. Elizabeth's fork clattered against her plate. Did you say Blackwood? Michael stammered. As in, Blackwood Financial Group. I smiled, finally letting my carefully maintained mask slip. Yes, cousin. As in the largest private lending firm on the West Coast. The one that just bought out your primary lender. The one that now holds the majority of Morrison Properties debt. The silence that fell over the dining room was deafening. That's impossible, Uncle James whispered. Blackwood is run by S.J. Blackwood. I've been trying to get a meeting with them for months. S.A. Blackwood, I said quietly. Sophie Jane Blackwood. The nobody you've been mocking for 8 years. Elizabeth's perfect makeup couldn't hide her shock. Michael looked like he might faint. My mother's hand trembled as she reached for her wine glass. But this wasn't just about revenge. This was about justice. About finally having the power to change how the Morrison family did business. Sarah, I spoke into the phone, my voice clear and confident. Hold the loan approval for now. I think it's time I had a proper meeting with Morrison Properties management. After all, family should stick together, right? I ended the call and looked around the table at my stunned relatives. 8 years of dismissal, mockery, and condescension had led to this moment. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. The real shock would come tomorrow, when they learned exactly what kind of changes their precious empire was about to undergo. Sometimes success isn't about making the most money or closing the biggest deals. Sometimes it's about building something meaningful, something that can force change even in the most resistant places. And sometimes, justice comes served with a side of pot roast. The Morrison Properties headquarters looked different from the outside. 8 years ago I'd walked out of these glass doors, vowing never to return. Now I stood in the marble lobby as owner of the company that held their fate in its hands. Miss Blackwood, the receptionist greeted me with a nervous smile. News travels fast in the business world, and yesterday's family dinner revelation had already made the rounds. Mr. Morrison and the board are waiting for you. I straightened my blazer and headed for the elevator, Sarah walking beside me with an iPad full of documents that would change everything. Their financial records are worse than we thought, Sarah murmured as we ascended. They've been hiding losses, manipulating tenant contracts, and there's evidence of systematic harassment of low-income residents. Just like old times, I replied, remembering why I'd left in the first place. The boardroom doors opened to reveal a very different scene from our monthly family dinners. Uncle James sat at the head of the table, his usual confidence replaced by barely concealed panic. Elizabeth and Michael flanked him, both looking like they hadn't slept. Various board members filled the remaining seats, their expressions ranging from curious to hostile. Sophie, Uncle James stood, forcing a smile. Or should I say Ms. Blackwood? Quite a surprise you gave us last night. Let's skip the pleasantries, I said, taking a seat. We're here to discuss the future of Morrison Properties. Now see here, Michael started, but I cut him off. No, you see here, cousin. Your company is in trouble. Deep trouble. Your primary lender didn't just randomly decide to sell your debt to Blackwood Financial. They sold because we showed them evidence of your predatory practices, your hidden losses, and your systematic violation of housing laws. Elizabeth's perfectly manicured hands clenched into fists. You've been spying on us? I've been watching, I corrected. Watching as you forced families out of their homes. Watching as you violated housing codes and safety regulations. Watching as you built this empire on the backs of people who couldn't fight back. That's business, Uncle James snapped. The Morrison way of doing business. Not anymore. I nodded to Sarah, who distributed folders to everyone present. Inside you'll find 2 documents. The first is a complete audit of Morrison Properties' illegal practices. If this reaches the housing authority, you'll face criminal charges. The room erupted in nervous whispers as the board members flipped through the damning evidence. The second document, I continued, is a restructuring proposal. Blackwood Financial is prepared to refinance your entire debt portfolio, but with conditions. Uncle James's face reddened. Conditions? We don't need your charity, Sophie. We can find other lenders. Can you? I smiled. Your company's real financial state is about to become very public. Those luxury developments you're so proud of? Built with substandard materials to cut costs. Those voluntary relocations? Actually forced evictions of protected tenants. No lender will touch you once this comes out. You wouldn't, Elizabeth whispered. We're family. Family. I laughed. Was it family when you mocked my career choices? When you dismissed my concerns about ethical business practices? When you celebrated throwing people out of their homes? I stood up, walking to the front of the room. But this isn't about revenge. It's about change. Real change. What do you want? Uncle James asked, his voice heavy with defeat. Morrison Properties will establish a tenant protection program. All current residents will be offered fair long-term leases. The Henderson Complex? It stays as affordable housing, fully renovated to meet safety codes. That's ridiculous. Michael exploded. We'll lose millions. You'll lose everything if you don't agree, I replied calmly. But if you do, Blackwood Financial will provide favorable refinancing terms. We'll even partner on new developments, ethical ones that benefit communities instead of destroying them. A board member spoke up. Mr. Morrison, we should consider this. The company's reputation. This is blackmail, Elizabeth hissed. No, cousin. This is consequence. I turned to the board members. You have 24 hours to decide. Choose carefully. As I turned to leave, Uncle James called out. Why are you doing this, Sophie? Really? I paused at the door. 8 years ago I left because I couldn't change this company from the inside. Now I can force that change from the outside. The question is, will you change with it or go down fighting? The next 24 hours transformed Morrison Properties. The board voted overwhelmingly to accept my terms, overriding Uncle James's objections. Elizabeth resigned, unable to accept the new direction. Michael, surprisingly, asked to head the new tenant protection program. I have kids now, he admitted during a private meeting. I don't want them growing up thinking success means hurting people. The Henderson Complex residents received new fair-rate leases. The Bay Area development was redesigned to include affordable housing units. Morrison Properties stock actually rose when we announced the ethical restructuring. Turns out, doing good can be good business. My mother called a week later. I never understood why you left, she said quietly. I thought you were running away from success. But you were running toward something better, weren't you? I was running toward the right kind of success, I replied. The next family dinner was different. No more competitive boasting or subtle jabs. Uncle James was quieter, more thoughtful. The cousins who remained at the company spoke about community impact instead of profit margins. As I sat there eating Aunt Patricia's pot roast, I realized that sometimes the biggest victories aren't about proving people wrong, they're about showing them a better way to be right. Sarah texted me during dessert. Henderson Complex renovations started today. The tenants sent thank you cards. I smiled, looking around at my family. They weren't perfect, but they were changing. Sometimes that's the best revenge. Not destroying what hurt you but transforming it into something better. Still thinking about your little Honda? Brad asked, trying to recapture some of his old arrogance. Actually, I replied, I'm thinking about the new community center we're building in the Henderson Complex. Would anyone like to help plan the opening ceremony? To my surprise, hands went up around the table. Change, when it finally comes, can be contagious. 1 year later, I stood on a podium outside the renovated Henderson Complex. Beside me, Uncle James prepared to cut the ribbon on the new community center. The residents who'd once feared Morrison Properties now filled the crowd, cheering. I was wrong about you, Sophie, Uncle James said quietly. About everything. It's not about being wrong or right, I replied. It's about doing better when you know better. The ribbon fell away and with it the last remnants of the old Morrison way of doing business. Sometimes success isn't measured in dollars or deals. Sometimes it's measured in lives changed, communities saved, and families transformed. As I watched children rush into the new playground, I thought about that family dinner a year ago. They'd mocked my failed career, never knowing I was building something more valuable than money, a way to force change in a system that desperately needed it. My phone buzzed. Another development company needed refinancing. Another opportunity to spread positive change. Ready to do some good? I asked Sarah. She smiled. Always, Ms. Blackwood. Always.
We'll all live together. It's perfect, Marcus announced, leaning against our kitchen counter with a self-satisfied smile. No messy divorce, no legal hassles, no property division. Just one big happy arrangement. I continued chopping carrots, my knife hitting the cutting board with precise, steady strokes. My name is Julia, and at 35, I was listening to my husband of 8 years explain why his 24-year-old girlfriend should move into our house. Olivia's lease is up next week, he continued, mistaking my silence for acceptance. She's young fun, she'll bring some excitement into our lives. You've been so focused on your writing lately, this could be good for all of us. The knife paused mid-chop. I looked up at Marcus, taking in his expensive new haircut. The designer watch Olivia had helped him pick out, the eager gleam in his eyes. And where exactly will Olivia be sleeping? I asked, my voice steady. He shifted uncomfortably. Well, I thought, maybe we could convert your study into a room. For now. Of course, my study. The space where I'd spent the last 3 years writing my mystery novels. The ones Marcus dismissed as a hobby even though they paid for his new car. For now? I echoed, resuming my chopping. You know what I mean, Jules. We'll figure it out as we go. The important thing is keeping things unofficial. No lawyers, no paperwork, just adults making adult decisions. I scraped the carrots into the pot, watching them splash into the simmering broth. Sounds perfect, I said quietly. Marcus blinked, clearly thrown by my easy agreement. Really? I mean, yes, of course it does. I knew you'd understand. When does she arrive? Tomorrow afternoon. I'll help her move her things and while you're at your writing group. I nodded, adding a pinch of thyme to the pot. Perfect timing. He stood there for a moment, waiting for the argument that wouldn't come. Finally, he pushed off from the counter. Right, well, I should call Olivia. Let her know everything's set. After he left, I pulled out my phone and sent a quick text to my sister Anna. It's happening, just like we thought. Her response was immediate. Everything ready? Almost. Need one more day. I'd seen this coming for months. The late nights at the office, the new clothes, the sudden interest in social media. Marcus wasn't exactly subtle. 2 months ago, I'd found a receipt for dinner at La Petite Bistro. Definitely not from a business meeting, since Marcus hated French food. That's when I started preparing. The next morning, I left for my writing group as usual. Marcus barely looked up from his phone as I headed out, too busy texting Olivia about their grand plans. He didn't notice the extra bag I carried or the fact that I'd worn my comfortable walking shoes instead of my usual heels. I drove to the coffee shop where my writing group met every Thursday, parked my car, and waited. At exactly 2:15 p.m., Anna pulled up beside me. Ready? She asked as I climbed into her car. More than ready. We drove past our house at 3:00 p.m., just in time to see Marcus helping a young blonde carry boxes through our front door. Olivia was exactly as I'd imagined. Pretty in that obvious way that made me feel simultaneously old and relieved. Nice shoes, Anna commented dryly, noting Olivia's impractical heels. Those'll look great when she's taking out the trash. If she stays long enough to learn where the trash goes, I replied. We drove to the modest apartment building across town where I signed a lease last week. Everything was already set up, furniture delivered, utilities connected, kitchen stocked. I'd been planning this move for weeks, ever since I'd overheard Marcus on the phone with Olivia, plotting their perfect solution. You're sure about this? Anna asked as she helped me carry in the last of my bags. I looked around the sunny apartment, at the desk positioned perfectly by the window where I could write, at the peaceful silence that wouldn't be interrupted by Marcus's complaints or Olivia's giggles. Absolutely sure. What time will they figure it out? I checked my watch. Probably around dinner time when they realize I'm not coming back to cook for them. Anna laughed. And the best part? I pulled out my phone, opening the email I'd received that morning. My new book deal. The advance is enough to buy Marcus out of the house, which he won't know until my lawyer contacts him tomorrow. And since he's so against legal hassles, he'll have to explain to Olivia why their perfect arrangement suddenly involves moving out. As if on cue, my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Where are you? Thought you'd be home by now." I typed back, "Making adult decisions. You understand." Then I turned off my phone, poured 2 glasses of wine, and sat down with my sister to wait for the chaos we knew would come. Sometimes the best revenge isn't a big confrontation. It's simply letting people face the consequences of their own brilliant plans. "To new beginnings," Anna said, raising her glass. I clinked mine against hers. "And to perfect arrangements." Outside, the sun was setting on one chapter of my life, but I wasn't afraid of the dark. After all, I wrote mysteries for a living. I knew all about plotting the perfect twist ending. The first signs of Marcus's panic arrived around 7 p.m. when Anna and I were halfway through our takeout dinner. My phone, now turned back on, lit up with a barrage of messages. "Jules, where are you? This isn't funny. We need to talk about this like adults. Answer your fate only." The last one made me smile. Marcus had always hated being ignored. It threatened his carefully constructed image of control. I could picture him pacing our kitchen, no, his kitchen now, running his hands through his perfectly styled hair while Olivia perched uncertainly on one of our bar stools. Should I reply? I asked Anna, showing her the messages. She shook her head, taking another bite of pad thai. Let him stew. He wanted an arrangement without legal hassles. Well, this is about as unofficial as it gets. I had just muted my phone when someone knocked on my apartment door. Anna and I exchanged glances. We weren't expecting anyone, and only 3 people knew where I was. Through the peephole, I saw Marcus's mother, Helen, standing in the hallway. "Did you tell her where you were?" Anna whispered. "No, but she's friends with my real estate agent." I took a deep breath and opened the door. Helen burst in, her designer handbag swinging wildly. "Julia, what is going on? Marcus just called me in a complete state, saying you've disappeared. And then I hear from Susan that you've rented an apartment. This is madness." I gestured for her to sit down. "Would you like some pad thai?" "Pad? No, I don't want pad thai. I want to know why my son is at your house with some child, and you're here eating takeout like nothing's wrong." "Nothing is wrong," I said calmly. "Marcus wanted an informal living arrangement. I'm simply accommodating his wishes." Helen sank onto my new couch, her face cycling through confusion, anger, and something that looked suspiciously like admiration. "He told me about his ridiculous plan this morning. I told him he was being a fool, that no self-respecting woman would agree to such a thing." "He's right about one thing," I said, sitting across from her. "We don't need legal hassles. The house is in my name. My first book advance paid the down payment. The car he's so proud of, bought with my hobby money. Tomorrow, my lawyer will contact him with a very simple proposition. Take a fair cash settlement and leave, or we can make things very official very fast." Helen was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she opened her handbag and pulled out a small silver flask. "I knew I liked you for a reason," she said, taking a delicate sip. "Marcus gets this from his father, you know. The entitlement, the magical thinking." "When did you start planning this?" 2 months ago, when I found the dinner receipt. I knew Marcus, he'd want to have his cake and eat it too. So I started moving money, making arrangements. The new book deal was just perfect timing. And the girl, Olivia, has no idea she's about to become homeless again. I doubt Marcus mentioned that part of his perfect plan. Helen took another sip from her flask, then held it out to me. "You know, when Marcus first brought you home, I thought you were too quiet, too agreeable. I see now you were just watching, waiting, planning." I accepted the flask, feeling the smooth metal against my palm. "I write mysteries, Helen. I know all about misdirection." My phone buzzed again. Marcus had switched to email. "Julia, you're being ridiculous. Come home and we can discuss this like rational people. Olivia is very upset. This isn't the way adults handle things." Helen read the email over my shoulder and snorted. "Rational people?" Coming from my son, who thought moving his mistress into his marital home was a sound decision. Should I respond? I asked, enjoying this newfound alliance with my mother-in-law. "Oh yes, Helen said, a wicked gleam in her eye. Let's help Marcus understand exactly how adults handle things. I typed out a reply, Dear Marcus, I agree completely. Adults handle things properly. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow with a settlement offer. Since you're against legal complications, I'm sure you'll appreciate the simplicity of the arrangement. Please ensure Olivia takes her shoes off when walking on my hardwood floors. Best regards, Julia. Send it, Helen commanded, and I did. The response was immediate. My phone started ringing. Marcus's face flashed on the screen, but I declined the call. He'll go to your writing group next Thursday, Helen predicted. He'll expect to find you there, to charm you back. The group meets at a different coffee shop now, I said. They were quite understanding when I explained this situation. Anna, who had been quietly watching this exchange, finally spoke up. You know what the best part is? When Marcus tells this story later, he'll have to admit that his wife outsmarted him while he was busy playing house with his girlfriend. Helen stood up, straightening her designer suit. Julia, dear, I'll handle damage control with the family. Just keep me updated. This is the most entertainment I've had since Marcus's father tried to convince me that his secretary was just helping him organize late-night meetings. After Helen left, Anna and I sat in comfortable silence, the remains of our dinner spread before us. My phone had gone quiet. Perhaps Marcus was finally realizing that his perfect arrangement had backfired spectacularly. What do you think they're doing right now? Anna wondered. I glanced at the clock. 8:30 p.m., probably realizing that neither of them knows how to cook. The housekeeper doesn't come until Tuesday, and all the takeout menus were in my desk drawer. The desk drawer in your study. The one Olivia's boxes are probably blocking right now. We both burst out laughing, the kind of deep, cleansing laughter that makes everything feel lighter. Outside, the city lights twinkled, and I felt a profound sense of peace. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but for now I was exactly where I needed to be. My phone lit up with one final message from Marcus. This isn't over. I smiled, thinking of the settlement papers being delivered to his office first thing tomorrow morning. No, I murmured, it's just beginning. The next morning, I woke up to the sound of birds chirping outside my new apartment window instead of Marcus's daily complaints about his coffee not being strong enough. The peace was interrupted by an urgent call from my lawyer, David. The papers have been delivered, he reported. You should expect some resistance. Right on cue, my phone buzzed with a call from Marcus. I declined it, putting my phone on silent as I started my morning writing routine. The words flowed easily. Amazing how creative you can be when you're not managing someone else's emotional weather. Around noon, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Olivia standing there, looking considerably less polished than she had yesterday. I opened the door. Julia, she said, her voice shaking. We need to talk. I leaned against the doorframe. About what? Marcus, he didn't tell me the house was yours. He said everything was joint property, that it wouldn't be complicated. She twisted her hands together. Now he's saying we have to leave by the end of the month. Sounds like you and Marcus have a lot to discuss. Please, he said. I gave up my apartment. I don't have anywhere else to go. I felt a flicker of pity, quickly replaced by resolve. That's funny. Yesterday you were quite happy to take my home. Now you're worried about not having one. She flushed. It wasn't like that. Marcus said you were okay with it, that you understood modern relationships, and you believed him. A man willing to move his girlfriend into his wife's house without any legal protection. I shook my head. Think carefully about what that says about his character. The realization dawned slowly on her face. He said the same thing about my apartment lease. That we didn't need paperwork, that it was better to keep things simple. Let me guess, he suggested you give up your lease before discussing any of this with me? She nodded, tears forming in her eyes. Olivia, I said, softening slightly, take some free advice from someone who writes about manipulative characters for a living. People who avoid legal hassles are usually the ones you need legal protection from. After she left, I called Helen. You'll never guess who just visited, I began. Oh, I can guess, Helen replied. Marcus called me this morning, ranting about how unreasonable you're being. I told him he's lucky you're offering a settlement at all. By the way, have you checked your email? I opened my laptop to find an email from my publisher. The early reviews for my new book were in, and they were glowing. One line caught my eye. A masterful tale of deception and justice served cold. If they only knew. Later that afternoon, David called again. Marcus has agreed to the settlement, he said, though he did try to argue that his emotional investment in the house should count for something. I laughed. The same emotional investment he was willing to share with Olivia. Exactly. He's signing the papers tomorrow. The money will be transferred directly to his account, and he has 30 days to vacate the property. And Olivia? Not mentioned in any of the legal documents, interestingly enough. That evening, Anna came over with champagne. We stood on my small balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. You know what I love most about this? Anna said, filling our glasses. You gave him exactly what he wanted. No legal hassles, no messy divorce. Just a simple property transaction. Sometimes the best revenge is simply turning someone's words against them. I replied, thinking of all the times Marcus had dismissed my writing as mere stories. My phone buzzed with a text from Helen. Dinner next Sunday. I want to hear all about your new book. I smiled, showing the message to Anna, who knew my happy ending would include my mother-in-law. Soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law, Anna corrected. No, I said, thinking of Helen's quiet strength during her own divorce years ago. Some family ties are chosen, not given. A week later, I drove past my old house and saw Marcus and Olivia arguing on the front lawn, moving boxes scattered around them. Through my open window, I caught snippets of their conversation, something about broken promises and trust. I didn't slow down. Their story wasn't mine anymore. Back in my apartment, I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop. My cursor blinked at the top of a fresh page as I typed. Chapter 1. Sometimes the perfect crime isn't taking something that doesn't belong to you. It's simply letting go of what does. My phone buzzed one last time with a message from Marcus. I hope you're happy with yourself. I looked around my peaceful apartment at the life I'd built from the ashes of his betrayal and typed back, I am, thank you for asking. Then I turned back to my novel, ready to write my own story on my own terms in my own home. After all, isn't that what happy endings are really about? Some people might call what I did revenge. I prefer to think of it as poetic justice, served without legal hassles, just as Marcus wanted. Sometimes the best plot twists are the ones we write for ourselves. I used your kids' savings to buy my dream home. Amanda's voice rang through my phone speaker, dripping with smug satisfaction. They don't need college anyway. I mean, look how well I turned out without it. I gripped my coffee mug tighter, watching my 2 children through the kitchen window as they played in the backyard. 10-year-old Emma was helping her 7-year-old brother Lucas build what looked like a rocket ship out of cardboard boxes. Both of them were already dreaming about their futures. Emma wanted to be an aerospace engineer. Lucas talked about becoming a doctor. Interesting choice, I replied, keeping my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. Oh, come on, Marie. Don't be so uptight, Amanda laughed. I saw an opportunity and I took it. The realtor said it was the last waterfront property available. I couldn't let it slip away just because you're hoarding all that money for some far-off future. My name is Marie Chen, and at 35, I just discovered my sister-in-law had somehow accessed the college fund accounts I'd been building for my children since they were born. These weren't just savings accounts, they represented every extra shift I'd worked as a nurse, every bonus I'd saved, every sacrifice I'd made to ensure my kids would have the opportunities I never had. Besides, Amanda continued, clearly enjoying herself, I'm doing you a favor. Now you won't have to worry about all that boring college planning. The kids can just work their way up like I did. I mean, look at me, high school diploma, and now I'm about to own a mansion. What Amanda didn't know, what she hadn't bothered to find out before her little power play, was that I hadn't built those college funds alone. My late husband, James, had been equally committed to our children's future. Before his death 3 years ago in a car accident, he'd made sure there were ironclad protections in place. The movers are coming tomorrow, Amanda announced cheerfully. I can't wait to post photos of my new life. Maybe I'll let the kids visit sometimes, show them how their aunt lives in luxury while their mom penny pinches for some overpriced education. I watched Emma help Lucas attach wings to their cardboard rocket. They were so much like their father, creative, determined, always dreaming big. James would have been proud of them. He also would have been livid at his sister's betrayal. When did you make the transfer? I asked, my tone casual as I opened my laptop. Last week, Can you believe how fast everything moved? The realtor said it was the smoothest cash transaction she ever handled. Though honestly, those bank people were kind of weird about it. So many questions, but I handled it like a boss. I pulled up my email and quickly found what I was looking for. An alert from our family lawyer that I've been saving for this exact moment. And you're moving in tomorrow? Yep. The truck's all loaded. I'm going to do a final walkthrough of the mansion this afternoon. 4,700 square feet, Marie. That's what real money can buy when you're not wasting it on books and lectures. I thought about the conversation I'd had with our lawyer 6 months ago, when he'd noticed some suspicious inquiries about the children's accounts. James had always said his sister was opportunistic, prone to taking shortcuts. He'd made sure to protect our children from exactly this kind of situation. Well, Amanda, I hope you didn't pack too much, I said, finally allowing a hint of steel to enter my voice. What's that supposed to mean? The smugness in her tone wavered slightly. Check your email, the one you used for the property purchase. It should have arrived about, I glanced at my watch, 5 minutes ago. The line went quiet except for the sound of Amanda's fingernails clicking on her phone screen. Then I heard her sharp intake of breath. This has to be a joke, she stammered. Property transfer void? Funds returned due to fraudulent access? What did you do? I didn't do anything, Amanda. James did. Years ago. Those college funds. They're in an educational trust. Any attempt to use them for non-educational purposes triggers automatic legal intervention. The money's already been returned to the trust accounts. But I already signed the papers. The house is mine. You signed papers using money you obtained fraudulently. The trust's lawyers have already contacted the real estate company. Check your next email. It should be from them, voiding the sale. You can't do this to me. Amanda's voice rose to a shriek. I already told everyone about my new house. I posted it on Instagram. Then I guess you'll have to post an update, I replied calmly. Maybe something about the importance of reading legal documents before trying to steal from your niece and nephew. Mom. Emma called from the backyard. Come look at our rocket. We made room for all our books when we go to Mars University. I have to go, I told Amanda. My future aerospace engineer needs me. This isn't over, Amanda hissed. I'll find a way to fight this. You can't just. I ended the call and stepped out into the backyard. Emma and Lucas had painted stars all over their cardboard rocket, and a carefully lettered sign read, Mars University Express. It's perfect, I said, hugging them both. Your dad would have loved it. My phone kept buzzing with incoming texts from Amanda, each one more desperate than the last. I silenced it without reading them. The trust's lawyers would handle everything. James had made sure of that. Our children's future was secure, protected by a father's love and foresight, even if he couldn't be here to see it himself. As I helped Emma and Lucas find more boxes to build their space university, I couldn't help but smile. Amanda had always underestimated our family, always thought she could outsmart everyone else. But she'd never understood what James and I knew from the start, that the best investments aren't in mansions or luxury, but in the dreams we build for our children. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. Amanda wouldn't give up easily, she never did. But for now, I was content watching my children reach for the stars, knowing their father had made sure nothing could hold them back. The next morning, I woke up to 37 missed calls and a flood of text messages from both Amanda and my mother-in-law, Patricia. I was making breakfast for the kids when the doorbell rang, its cheerful chime somehow managing to sound angry. Mom? Emma looked up from her cereal. Is that Aunt Amanda? She keeps posting weird stuff on Facebook about us. I squeezed her shoulder reassuringly. Finish your breakfast, sweetie. I'll handle this. Sure enough, Amanda stood on my porch, still wearing yesterday's clothes, her perfectly styled hair now a mess. Behind her, Patricia's Mercedes was parked crookedly in my driveway. How dare you humiliate your sister like this? Patricia burst out before I could even speak. Do you know how embarrassing it was for her to explain to the realtor that the sale fell through? I crossed my arms, blocking the doorway. More or less embarrassing than stealing from her niece and nephew's college fund. She didn't steal anything. Patricia snapped. She was simply redistributing family resources. Those children don't need 2 massive college funds. It's excessive. 2? I hadn't meant to engage, but curiosity got the better of me. Amanda's face flushed. Well, since you're being so difficult about the first account, I thought I'd try the backup fund James mentioned before he died, but those stuck-up lawyers won't even tell me where it is. I felt a surge of gratitude for my late husband's foresight. James had always said his sister would try something like this one day. The second fund was locked away even more securely, a surprise for the kids' graduation day. "You need to fix this," Amanda demanded. "Call off the lawyers. Tell them I had permission to use the money." "That's not happening," I replied firmly. "Those funds are for the children's education. Nothing else." Education. Patricia threw her hands up. James would have wanted his sister to have a beautiful home. Family comes first. Yes, I agreed quietly. Family does come first. That's why James set up those trusts, to protect his children's future. "Oh please," Amanda scoffed. James was just being controlling, like always. He knew I was better with money than him. I could have turned those college funds into a real estate empire. I heard small footsteps behind me and turned to see Lucas in the doorway. His space robot pajamas rumpled from sleep. "Daddy wasn't controlling," he said, his young voice firm. "He was smart. He told me so." Amanda's expression softened into something calculating. "Oh, sweetie," she cooed, "don't you want your Auntie Amanda to have a nice house where you can come visit? We could have a pool, and—" No, Emma appeared beside her brother, her face a mirror of James's when he was angry. "Those are our Space University funds," Dad promised. Patricia stepped forward, her designer purse swinging. "Now, children, you don't understand adult matters. Sometimes plans need to change. Your aunt needs—" "I think we're done here," I interrupted, ushering my children back inside. "The trust lawyers will be in touch about the attempted fraud. I suggest you both leave before they add harassment to the list of charges." "Fraud?" Amanda's face went pale. "You wouldn't dare. I'm family." "Exactly," I replied. "You're family. You tried to steal from your own niece and nephew. Think about that." I closed the door on their protests and turned to find both children watching me. Emma's face was thoughtful, while Lucas clutched his favorite book about space doctors. "Mom," Emma asked, "is Aunt Amanda going to jail?" I sat down on the stairs, patting the space beside me. They both curled up close, seeking reassurance. "No, honey. But she did something wrong, and there are consequences for that. Like when I took an extra cookie and had to skip dessert." Lucas asked. "Something like that," I smiled, ruffling his hair. "But much bigger." Through the window, I could see Amanda and Patricia still arguing in the driveway. My phone buzzed with a text from the trust's lawyer. "FYI, she's now trying to claim verbal permission from James. We have his recorded statements specifically prohibiting this. Do you want to proceed with charges?" I thought about James, about all our late-night conversations planning for our children's future. He'd known his family well, their patterns, their sense of entitlement. The trusts weren't just about money. They were about protecting our children from exactly this kind of manipulation. "Did Dad know Aunt Amanda would do this?" Emma asked, always perceptive. "He suspected she might try," I admitted. "That's why he worked so hard to protect your future." "Like a superhero," Lucas exclaimed. "A secret superhero who saves college." A car door slammed outside. Through the window, I watched Patricia's Mercedes pull away, Amanda in the passenger seat. My phone immediately lit up with a message from Patricia. "This isn't over. Family meeting tonight at our house. Be there or else." I replied with a simple "no thank you" and blocked both their numbers. The trust lawyers had been clear. All communication should go through them now. Emma leaned against me, her voice quiet. "Mom, are we still going to be able to go to college?" "Absolutely," I assured her. "Your dad made sure of that. No one can touch those funds except for your education." "And Mars University?" Lucas asked anxiously. "If you get accepted to Mars University, the funds will be there," I promised, hugging them both. Later that evening, after the kids were in bed, I sat in James' old office, looking through the family photos he kept on his desk. There was one of Amanda at his college graduation, looking bored and resentful. She dropped out after one semester, claiming college was a waste of time. James had tried to help her over the years, offering to pay for her to go back to school. But she always wanted quick fixes, easy money. My phone lit up with an email from the trust's lawyer, updating me on the situation. Amanda's failed attempt to access the funds had triggered an investigation into her other financial dealings. The preliminary findings weren't pretty: unpaid taxes, questionable loans. a pattern of manipulating family members for money. Your husband was right, the lawyer wrote. She would have burned through those college funds in months. The protections he put in place work exactly as intended. The kid's future is secure. I picked up my favorite photo of James with the children, taken at Emma's 7th birthday. He was helping her build a model rocket, while Lucas, just 4 at the time, watched in awe. James had always said our children could reach any height, achieve any dream, as long as we gave them a strong foundation to build on. Amanda and Patricia might never understand that. To them, money was about immediate gratification, about status and showing off. They couldn't see that James' real legacy wasn't about dollars in an account. It was about believing in our children's potential, about giving them the tools to build their own futures. Outside, the night was clear, stars twinkling above our modest home. Somewhere up there, past all those stars, was Mars, where Emma dreamed of building cities and Lucas dreamed of healing space explorers. Their father had made sure those dreams had a chance to grow, protected from those who couldn't see beyond their own desires. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Patricia's or else threat would materialize in some form, and Amanda wouldn't give up easily. But tonight, I was grateful for James's wisdom, for his love that reached beyond time to protect our children's dreams. 3 months after Amanda's failed attempt to steal the college funds, I sat in my lawyer's office reviewing the final settlement agreement. The investigation into Amanda's finances had revealed even more than we'd expected. She'd been forging Patricia's signature on loans, convincing distant relatives to invest in non-existent businesses, and running up massive debts in pursuit of her luxury lifestyle. The trust protections didn't just save your children's education, Mr. Sullivan explained, sliding the papers across his desk. They expose years of financial fraud. Several other family members have come forward about money she took from them. I thought about the family meeting Patricia had tried to force. It had happened without me, turning into a shouting match when other relatives realized the extent of Amanda's deceptions. My brother-in-law Tom called afterward, apologizing for doubting me. James always said she was dangerous with money, he admitted. I should have listened. The settlement was straightforward. Amanda would repay her victims over time, attend financial counseling, and most importantly, have no access to any family funds in the future. Patricia, faced with evidence of her daughter's actions, had finally stopped enabling her. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma's teacher. Space project presentation today. Emma's rocket design is incredible. I smiled, remembering the cardboard prototype still standing in our garage. Emma had upgraded it with real calculations about fuel efficiency and atmospheric drag. Lucas had contributed by designing a space hospital inside, complete with zero-gravity operating rooms. One more thing, Mr. Sullivan said as I signed the papers. We found this in James's old files. He asked that it be given to you if Amanda ever tried to access the trusts. He handed me an envelope sealed with James's familiar scrawl across the front. For Marie, when Amanda shows her true colors. Inside was a letter, written in James's warm, thoughtful style. My dear Marie, if you're reading this, it means Amanda finally tried to take what isn't hers. I'm sorry you had to deal with this, but I never doubted you'd protect our children's future. Amanda always thought I was too cautious, too focused on planning ahead. She never understood that true wealth isn't about mansions or status. It's about giving our children wings to fly and roots to come home to. The second trust fund I set up, it's not just for college. I've arranged for it to cover any educational dream our children pursue, whether it's Emma building rockets or Lucas healing people among the stars. They can reach for anything, knowing they have a foundation to build on. Tell them their daddy believed in their dreams, even the ones that seem as distant as Mars. All my love, James. That evening, I watched Emma present her rocket design to her class. She stood tall, explaining thrust vectors and orbital mechanics with the same passion James had shown for building things. Lucas sat in the front row, bursting with pride at his big sister's work. And this, Emma concluded, pointing to her diagram, is how we'll get to Mars University. The class erupted in applause. Her teacher pulled me aside afterward. She's got a real gift for engineering, and such determination. She gets that from her father, I said softly. At home, I found a final email from Patricia waiting. I was wrong. James knew exactly what he was doing, protecting them from us. I'm sorry. I tucked James's letter into the family album, next to the photo of him building rockets with Emma. Amanda's betrayal had hurt, but it had also proved something important. That love, wisdom, and careful planning could protect dreams across time through any storm. The kids were in the backyard, upgrading their cardboard rocket with solar panels made from aluminum foil. Their dreams were safe, their future secure, protected by a father who'd seen clearly and planned wisely. "Mom," Lucas called. We made room for a whole medical library in the rocket. "Want to see?" I stepped outside into the warm evening air. Above us, Mars glowed red against the darkening sky. Distant, but not impossible. Just like James had always said. "Show me everything," I replied, ready to dream with them. My hand trembled as I held the phone, listening to my sister's smug voice through the speaker. "Thanks for the brilliant idea, sis. I've already got investors lined up. You should be proud. Your invention is finally going somewhere." My name is Olivia Chen, and at 32, I had just discovered my sister Amanda had stolen my life's work. A revolutionary water filtration system I'd spent 3 years developing in my garage. The worst part? She'd found my prototype and research notes while helping me move apartments last month. "You can't do this, Amanda," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. "That filtration system is my work. Every design, every test, every failure and success. It's all documented in my research journals." She laughed, the sound sharp and dismissive. "Oh please, sketches in a notebook don't mean anything. I've already got the provisional patent application ready to file. Face it, you were never going to do anything with it anyway. You're too afraid to take risks. At least I have the courage to make it happen." I gripped my desk, memories flooding back of all the times Amanda had taken credit for my achievements. In high school, she claimed my science project as her own, winning first place while I stayed silent. In college, she borrowed my research paper for inspiration and somehow ended up submitting an almost identical version to her professor. Every time, our parents brushed it off. "Sisters share everything," or "Don't be so selfish, Olivia." But not this time. This wasn't just another school project. This was my future. "I've got meetings with investors all week," Amanda continued, her voice drooping with fake sympathy. "Don't worry, I'll make sure the family name shines bright. You can go back to your safe little research job and—" I hung up, my hands still shaking but now with determination rather than anger. Walking to my home office, I opened my safe and pulled out a thick manila envelope. Inside was something Amanda didn't know existed, my official patent application, filed 6 months ago when I first caught her snooping around my prototype. I learned from experience that my sister couldn't be trusted, so this time, I'd been prepared. Every test result, every design iteration, every piece of documentation had been properly notarized and filed. I even kept video logs of my development process, all time-stamped and backed up securely. My phone buzzed again. Amanda, no doubt calling to continue gloating. Instead of answering, I emailed my patent attorney. "It's happening exactly as we predicted. Time to proceed with phase 2. I smiled, thinking of the shocked look that would soon replace Amanda's smug expression. She thought she was so clever, but she just walked right into a trap 3 years in the making. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about being 10 steps ahead. The next week unfolded exactly as I'd anticipated. Amanda paraded around town, meeting with potential investors, making grandiose promises about her revolutionary water filtration system. Each time she posted on social media about her breakthrough innovation, I documented it, adding to the steadily growing file my lawyer was building. My parents called, of course. "Olivia, why can't you be supportive of your sister?" My mother pleaded. "She's finally found her passion. You know how much she's struggled to find her path." I sat in my home office, staring at the wall of technical drawings and certification documents I'd accumulated over 3 years of work. "Mom, that's my invention. Every single aspect of it. Amanda stole my research, my prototype, everything." "Don't be ridiculous," she scoffed. "Amanda showed us all her work. She has diagrams, test results, everything. Why would she lie about something like this?" I closed my eyes, remembering every time they dismissed my complaints about Amanda's behavior. Every time they told me to be the bigger person while she took credit for my achievements. "You'll see soon enough," I said quietly, ending the call. 3 days later, Amanda hosted a big presentation for potential investors at the city's most expensive hotel. She'd invited the entire family, local media, even my old professors from engineering school. The irony wasn't lost on me. She'd gathered all the witnesses I needed in one place. I arrived early, taking a seat in the back row. Amanda spotted me and smirked, probably assuming I was there to watch helplessly as she claimed my work as her own. She had no idea she was about to walk into a carefully laid trap. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, standing proudly next to my prototype, "I'm excited to present a breakthrough in water filtration technology. This system, which I've developed over the past year, represents a complete revolution in how we think about water purification." I watched as she clicked through slides that were clearly copied from my research documents, explaining concepts she barely understood. The investors nodded appreciatively, taking notes. My parents beamed with pride from the front row. Then Amanda reached the technical specifications, the part I've been waiting for. As she confidently rattled off numbers and processes, I pressed send on an email I prepared earlier. Exactly 30 seconds later, the hotel's AV system experienced an unexpected technical difficulty. The screen behind Amanda suddenly switched to a different presentation. My original pitch deck from 2 years ago, complete with dated timestamps and my signature on every slide. Amanda faltered, her professional demeanor cracking slightly. There seems to be some technical issue." That's when my patent attorney stood up from the middle row. "Actually, Ms. Chen, there's no technical issue. I'm Richard Maxwell, representing the patent holder of this technology, your sister, Olivia Chen." The room went silent. Amanda's face drained of color as Mr. Maxwell continued. "We have extensive documentation proving Ms. Olivia Chen's ownership of this intellectual property, including a patent application filed 6 months ago. Additionally, we have evidence of your unauthorized access to and attempted theft of this technology." He gestured to 2 people in suits who had been quietly filming the entire presentation. "Representatives from the patent office are here as witnesses. Every claim you've made today about inventing this technology constitutes patent infringement and intellectual property theft." Amanda grabbed the microphone, her voice shrill. "This is ridiculous. I developed this system. I have proof." "You mean these?" I finally spoke up, walking to the front of the room with a stack of papers. "Your proof is actually copies of my research journals, the ones you photographed while helping me move. Every page is dated, notarized, and backed up with video documentation of my development process. Would you like me to play some of that footage for your investors?" The room erupted in murmurs. Investors began gathering their things, shooting disapproving looks at Amanda. My parents sat frozen, their earlier pride replaced by shocked disbelief. "I can explain," Amanda stammered, but it was too late. Mr. Maxwell was already distributing cease and desist orders to the investors, along with evidence packets documenting her attempted theft. I turned to the crowd, my voice clear and professional. "I apologize for this disruption. For those still interested in the actual technology, I'll be holding a legitimate presentation next week. My team will contact you with details." As people filed out of the room, Amanda grabbed my arm. "How could you do this to me, to your own sister?" I gently removed her hand. "No, Amanda. The question is, how could you do this to me, again? Did you really think I wouldn't protect my work this time?" Our parents approached, their faces a mix of emotions. Dad looked disappointed, but for once, not in me. Mom just looked tired. "Amanda, is this true?" she asked quietly. "Did you steal your sister's work?" But Amanda was already pushing past them, running from the room in tears. She'd always been good at playing the victim when her schemes fell apart. The aftermath of Amanda's failed presentation unfolded like a carefully orchestrated symphony. Within days, my patent was fully approved, and several investors who had initially been approached by Amanda reached out to me directly. The irony wasn't lost on me. My sister's attempt to steal my invention had actually accelerated its path to market. But the personal fallout was harder to navigate. Amanda barricaded herself in her apartment, refusing to speak to anyone. Mom called daily, alternating between apologies and attempts to broker peace. "Can't you drop the legal proceedings?" she pleaded one evening. "She's your sister, Olivia. She's suffering." I sat in my newly rented lab space, surrounded by improved prototypes of my filtration system. "Mom, actions have consequences. Amanda needs to learn that she can't take what isn't hers." "But she's family." Yes, she is, I interrupted, which made her betrayal even worse. How many times have you told me to let it go when she took credit for my work? How often did you dismiss my feelings because that's just how Amanda is? The silence on the other end was telling. Dad, surprisingly, took a different approach. He showed up at my lab one afternoon, looking older than I'd ever seen him. I owe you an apology, he said, examining my latest prototype. We failed you, Olivia. We enabled Amanda's behavior, made excuses for her, and taught her that she could get away with anything. Tears pricked at my eyes, but I kept working, adjusting a valve on the filtration unit. Why was it always my responsibility to keep the peace? Because you were stronger, he admitted. More capable. We took advantage of that, expected you to be the bigger person. It wasn't fair. He picked up one of my technical journals, flipping through pages of calculations and diagrams. This is incredible work, by the way. I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. 2 weeks after the presentation, Amanda finally reached out, through her lawyer. She wanted to negotiate, to find a way to collaborate on the project. My response was simple. She could either sign a legal admission of her attempted theft and agree to cease all claims to my invention, or we could proceed with a full lawsuit. She chose the former, though not without attempting to spin the story one last time on social media. But my documentation was too thorough, my evidence too complete. Her posts only served to make her look more guilty. The real surprise came during a family dinner a month later. Amanda showed up unannounced, looking different, humbled, perhaps. I've been talking to a therapist, she announced quietly, about why I do these things. Take what isn't mine. Try to be you instead of finding my own path. I continued eating, not ready to offer forgiveness just yet. I'm not asking you to trust me again, she continued. I know I've destroyed that, but I am sorry, Olivia, truly sorry. Looking at her, I saw something I'd never seen before. Genuine remorse, not just regret at being caught. Thank you for saying that, I replied carefully. But you're right, trust has to be earned. 6 months later, my water filtration system launched to significant acclaim. The technology was being implemented in several developing countries, providing clean water to communities that desperately needed it. Every interview, every press release, every demonstration carried my name. Olivia Chen, inventor and engineer. Amanda found her own path eventually, going back to school for environmental science. Sometimes she'd send me articles about water conservation or sustainable technology, not trying to take credit or compete, just sharing information she thought I'd find interesting. Mom and Dad came to every demonstration, every award ceremony. They'd finally learned to celebrate my achievements without trying to share the spotlight with Amanda. It was a different kind of family dynamic, not perfect, but more honest. One evening, as I wrapped up a successful presentation, a young engineering student approached me. Ms. Chen, she said hesitantly, I read about what happened with your sister. How did you find the strength to stand up for yourself? I thought about the years of preparation, the careful documentation, the quiet determination that had led to this moment. I learned that protecting your work isn't selfish. I told her, standing up for yourself isn't wrong. Sometimes the hardest people to stand up to are family, but that doesn't make it any less necessary. Later that night, I added another entry to my project journal, not technical specifications this time, but a simple truth I'd learned through all of this. Success isn't just about creating something innovative. It's about having the courage to protect it, nurture it, and ensure it reaches its full potential, even when that means standing up to the people you love.